Welcome to topic 9, the focus of zone 4 of the zones of social media marketing and social commerce in particular. This is a pretty broad zone as it can relate to any of the stages in the purchase decision process. We'll outline this in this topic. The primary area for social commerce are reviews and ratings and apps that essentially help purchase in social media. So because of the importance of the reviews and ratings in social media, this topic will relate pretty heavily to the coverage of influencers and word of mouth communication covered in topic 3. So what are the learning objectives? What is the relationship between social commerce and e-commerce? How are mobile devices and software apps influencing social commerce? How do social shoppers use social media as they move through consumer decision-making processes? How do ratings and reviews provide value for customers and marketers? And they do. And what are the psychological factors that influence social shopping? So just to refamiliarize ourselves, the zone of social commerce is in the bottom left-hand corner. So we've got retailing, sales, human resources, all that sort of services stuff. So understanding social commerce. So social commerce is a subset of e-commerce that uses social media applications essentially to enable online shoppers to interact and collaborate during the shopping experience, help buyers to complete stages of purchasing the decision process, and to assist marketers in selling to their customers. It really encompasses social shopping, social marketplaces, and hybrid channels and tools that enable shared participation in a buying decision. So it enables people, both networks of buyers and sellers, to participate actively in marketing and selling of products and services in an online marketplace and community. So the relationship between social commerce and social shopping is social shopping is the active participation in the consumer decision-making process. So one's own and that of others, typically in the form of opinions, recommendations, experiences shared via social media. It refers to the consumer's behavior as they are using social media to make purchase decisions. So social commerce is the commercial application of social media to drive the acquisition and retention of customers. So we have some key social commerce elements. We have ratings and reviews, curated merchandise, and shopping applications and venues. So what we will do, we will start with reviews and ratings. So we've all experienced rating reviews. Essentially, you look up a particular product. Normally people just put it into Google and add review to the end of it, as the search results would indicate from Google search results. And it comes up with a site, whether it's in eBay or wherever, and it actually gives you people's opinion. They normally have a star rating. Is it 0 stars, 5 stars? In-purchase apps also have that. So if you use Uber Eats or Deliveroo or whatever, you can actually look at the brand and see what people have said about it and what rating they've been given. Uber does it directly, and it's for its ride-sharing service. So these are so curated merchandise. This relates to, it's essentially the bundling of products together, just like a catalog used to. It essentially puts items that you could potentially use with each other together, really. So it's just about curating, putting things together. And shopping apps and venues are essentially, they're apps, really. So they help facilitate, like Group, like Groupon. That just essentially just helps you provide an avenue for you to actually go shopping. So the consumer decision-making process. Essentially, shopping is shopping, right? There's, people buy things. So it's important to understand the decisions involved, and there are essentially 5 of them. There are multiple models, but we'll stick with this one because it is, it's not the simplest one, but it is probably the easiest one to comprehend, and it makes most sense and it fits most situations. So essentially, you've got a problem recognition. So the person identifies that they have a need for something, whether it's real or not. It's still a problem identification. Then they essentially go out and look for information on it. So, they look at reviews, they look at specifications, they look across different sites. Then they evaluate alternatives. So once they've got their bundle there, they go, okay, which one is best for me? Then they essentially purchase it, and then they do a post-purchase evaluation. So that's when they reflect on whether their product or the service that they've purchased is the best one for them. So we'll go in a little bit more detail. So problem recognition is facilitated by several social commerce tools. So social ads on social networking sites can facilitate a problem. Shared endorsement from a friend posted in an active stream, curated images and lists on sites like Pinterest, location-based promotions like Yelp, and then participatory commerce like Kickstarter. So there could be many triggers to identify a particular problem recognition, right? So Betabrand crowdsources products designed using social media, an approach called participatory commerce. So one successful story is the dress yoga pants, which solve the problem women face when dashing from work to yoga. Information search is facilitated by several social commerce sites. So comments and conversations through social channels, ratings and reviews posted on Yelp and Zagat. Products and pricing information tagged to image posts, social search queries to social networking sites, social sharing of wish lists and gift registries, and then conversational commerce. So this is where we start to have a look at chatbots and see how their process in actually information searching. So the prevalence and availability of information online includes via social channels have changed the information search experience. So you just need to be aware of that. So the power of ratings and reviews. So 95% of consumers report having read reviews prior to making a purchase decision. So 66% of customers read 1 to 10 reviews before making. 70% of mobile shoppers are likely to purchase if the mobile site or app includes reviews. So disabling reviews is really not a good option. 82% seek out negative reviews as an indicator of authenticity. So if everything's positive, people start to go, well, is it just, their friends, or is it all their staff members just writing reviews? Are there any actually authentic ones there? And 60% have viewed a review on their smartphone while shopping in store. Now, I can personally say I've done that as well. I do that all the time. So one key aspect of reviews is transparency. So 25% have seen reviews they believe to be fake. Now, it's not hard to identify a fake review. Usually they're either over enthusiastic about the positive aspects or extremely exaggerate the negative aspects. So it's not just people posting positive reviews of their own brand or getting people to post positive reviews that are essentially fake. Often they attack competitors. So we just need to be aware of that. So 20% have seen customers be paid or incentivized to post reviews. This, in the early days, maybe it still happens, of eBay, this used to happen all the time. You'd get a message, I'll give you 10% off your next sale if you post a really positive review. Or please don't post anything and I'll refund you your entire product. So they understood that one bad review was just as bad, so they would actually incentivize you not to post. So 81% find it difficult to distinguish between what is an authentic user content and native advertising. Yes, that's because the world's emerging. Incentivized reviewers are less likely than non-incentivized reviewers to give a 1 star, and 4 times more likely to be critical of the review. So essentially, there's some platforms out there that prohibit incentivized reviews, as they should. Now, let's move on to stage 3, evaluation of alternatives. So this is, again, it's when you've got, say, your top 4 or your top 5 or maybe just 2, and you start to evaluate which is the best option for you in regards to purchase. So barcode scanning, price comparisons using mobile apps, recommendations, testimonials, recommendation agents, and popularity filters. And then we've got rating and reviews as well. So whilst we do rely on brand information to kind of seeking information, there is a massive social component when we were evaluating alternatives. I know for a fact, when I was buying my last surfboard, I actually went onto a particular review site a review channel on YouTube and actually looked at it when they were comparing 3 different surfboards together. So I was actually looking at what are the, not only were the dimensions, but what was the performance and what type of waves best suited the particular board. Now, these are very popular, and they get millions of hits on channels like that, and reviews are essentially invaluable because what they do have is that level of that detachment from the brand. So you're not just relying on the PR spin coming out of the brand. So stage 4, purchase. So this is the stage that we hope we get them to, right? So if they're not purchasing, your brand won't survive for too much longer if you're a for-profit organization, and you can't really help people if you're a not-for-profit organization. So we need to move them towards purchase. This purchase could be also donation. It could be whatever the component is. So purchase is facilitated by several social commerce tools. So shop within network options like Facebook Buy, InstaShop, social shopping malls, peer-to-peer marketplaces, group buys like Groupon I've already mentioned, and conversational commerce, so with the chatbot service. Chatbots are kind of getting a bad reputation in some sites and with some people because, one, they're either not sophisticated, people were expecting the level of sophistication to be much higher than it is, and two, some people don't like the human touch. So there's kind of been a pushback to full automation, and people actually start wanting some level of human touch, but they still have a very big role to play, and they are still very useful. So post-purchase evaluation. So post-purchase evaluation is facilitated by several social commerce tools. So comments posted on the social networking site. There are literally millions of those happening every day. Requests for help or comments by brands on social networking sites. I still haven't got a feedback of something I posted 4 months ago. Do you think I'm going to go buy that brand again? No. Participation in loyalty programs with social benefits, definitely. And submission of ratings and reviews on review sites and retailer websites. So, and then again, reviews and product experience posted on blogs. So purchase doesn't end the process. This is just really important. So if you don't have that follow-up service, if you aren't monitoring comments post-purchase, you're actually missing out on a really big opportunity, one, to learn or enhance someone's experience, or to kind of curb their potential anxiety that comes after purchase, like, did I waste my money? So it's really important to understand the post-purchase evaluation. It's fundamental, right? You need to be involved in that. So the moment of advocacy, the third moment of truth. So essentially, the 0 moment of truth it draws from the notion that the first moment of truth, the moment a consumer chooses a product from the store shelf, and the second moment of truth, the moment the consumer uses the product and feels satisfied or dissatisfied. The 0 moment of truth emphasizes that customers today may be influenced in several moments online prior to making a purchase decision. So besides using opinions earlier in the decision process, consumers may also use ratings and reviews as a form of validating just prior to purchase. This is called verification. Alternatively, the evaluation stage is where shoppers report that they've read the review to evaluate opinions both from a product and retailer compared to price check of details and considered opinions of others. So this notion of 0 moment of truth is actually fundamental. We need to make sure we do our best to ensure that 0 moment of truth is a positive one. So what are some best practices that we can rely on? Authenticity is key. People are getting more and more savvy about identifying unauthentic content. So accept comments even if negative. If they're all negative, that just says something about your brand that you really need to consider. So don't say I hate it. Yeah, it's actually a learning moment. Transparency. Disclose invited or incentivized opinions. I dare say, and I have no evidence for this because I dare say that companies wouldn't voluntarily reveal it, but that's probably not happening as high as it should. So we want to be transparent. Advocacy, let people rate the value of the reviews. Participatory, encourage customers to review. To a point, like, don't badger them. I got 5 messages from one brand the other day saying, "Can you please write a review? Can you please write a review?" Like, I understand the reviews are important, but You know, you don't want to badger people because then they might write a negative review. So just be mindful of how many times you quote unquote remind them. Reciprocity. I'll get that eventually. Some words I have trouble pronouncing. Express gratitude for value of the reviews. So there's nothing wrong with saying thanks for your review. I was looking at a particular brand the other day, and you know, in their Facebook feed, people were writing back, "Oh, this product doesn't do exactly what you were saying. I'm not really happy with it." The brand was on there within like a minute. I was so impressed. They were on there within a minute, actually saying, "Okay, what component didn't work?" And they actually had that full conversation in this. Like I would have, yeah, my first instinct would have been get into another channel so people don't see the entire conversation. But they had the entire conversation there, which made it look authentic, completely transparent, and highly participatory. And it was really good. Like at the end of the day, it didn't put me off that brand. In fact, it encouraged me to maybe want to purchase off that brand once they fix their original problem, because they are so open to change. So it was very refreshing. And infectiousness. Make it easier to share reviews. Now, when reviews started originally, it was actually quite difficult to navigate that process. Today, it's actually pretty easy. So most of the sites are pretty instinctual. They, you know, have pop-up prompts and you get to pick an icon, and it doesn't really take you that long to put the review. So there's less barriers to actually placing reviews out there now. So how can marketers build a strong base of authentic, good reviews? So educate people about your product. This is really important. Identify people most likely to share opinions. So if people have shared reviews elsewhere, they're probably going to be open to sharing your reviews. So it's important to identify those people. Again, as I said just now, provide tools to make it easier to share opinions. If there's too many barriers for people to do anything online, they will click off instantly. Study how, when, where opinions are shared. So one thing I like to do is look how quickly after a purchase people are reviewing. When that is, like, is it whilst they're using the product, after they've had a time to reflect on the product, and where the opinions are shared. So if it's on the company site compared to an independent review site, that tells me a lot as well. Like if they're going straight for the brand and it's negative, they want something to happen, right? They want to be heard and they want action. So it's really important to consider those three things. It's actually really good. Three very important questions that we should be asking. Listen and respond, to support detractors and neutrals. Neutrals are often underexplored. When people are a bit meh, that's important as well, because we want people to be excited. So what can we do to actually make them excited? These are all really important questions that we really need to consider. So the psychology of influence. So influence factors that make it more or less likely that people will share their attitudes and behaviors based on persuasive messages. So bounded rationality and information overload encourage the use of heuristics such as satisficing and thin slicing when making decisions. So what does this actually mean? So cognitive bias is probably the first thing that we need to be aware of. So what cognitive bias refers to is like the shortcut our brains take when we process information. So hence why I was saying that people use a lot of emojis or other characteristics so they can visually represent reviews or opinions, because people who are looking at them will be able to make like a psychological shortcut, a cognitive shortcut, to see whether it's, you know, something that they like or dislike. So that's the first thing that we needed to just to make ourselves aware of. Bounded rationality captures the quandary we face as humans, essentially, when we have choice to make, but are limited by our cognitive capacity. So our ability to process and our ability to understand. So again, we need to make the information delivered in a way that we don't overwhelm or overload the people reviewing. Or, conversely, don't make it so complex to review that it actually gets in the way of them understanding. So, satisfice means we expend just enough effort to make a decision that is acceptable, but not necessarily the one that's best. So, again, when people go to review things, this is the sort of stuff that they look for. It needs to be easily digestible. It needs to be delivered in a format that allows people to make shortcuts. But those shortcuts need to be accurate. So let's delve a little bit into the psychology of influence. So we've got everything from social proof, authority, affinity, scarcity, reciprocity, and consistency. So a social proof, so when a lot of people select one option, we interpret this popularity as social proof that the choice is the right one. So if everyone's got it, we've got it. So essentially, sometimes it's referred to as bandwagoning or herding. So herd behavior occurs when people follow the behavior of others. Okay, it can be motivated by conformity. So it's a change of belief or action as a reaction to real or imagined group pressures. And norms are informal rules that govern behavior. So when we put for social proof, when we put like bandwagoning and herding and the notion of conformity and changing norms all together, it starts to become a really powerful mechanism. And on top of that, if you introduce things like the principle of least interest, so when people who are least committed to staying in a relationship has the most power because the other party doesn't want to kind of break it up, and we support that with testimonials as a really strong source of social proofs that the product is the right choice. So social proof and the process of the notion of social proofing is actually a major psychological influencer for social marketers to potentially leverage in like social commerce. The next, we've kind of got authority. So authorities persuade with the opinion or recommendation of experts in the field. We've all seen these. Affinity, so sometimes people call it liking, means that people tend to follow or emulate those who they find attractive or otherwise desirable. Can you have a guess where the birth of social influences come from? Like Instagram influencers, it came out of this notion of affinity. Scarcity, as you would expect. If we perceive something to be scarce, we increase our efforts to acquire it, even if it means paying a price premium. So often things are made to appear scarce in order to increase their value, and diamonds are a classic example of that. There's billions of them, but they're still very expensive. Reciprocity. So basically the rule of reciprocity basically says that we have an embedded urge to repay debt and favors, whether or not we've requested the help in the first place. And we've got consistency. This is essentially a cognitive dissonance. It's a state of psychological discomfort caused when things we know or do contradict one another. So often we will go and be influenced by people if there's a struggle in our own mind about exactly what's right or what's wrong or what people should do. So social media is fantastic at picking people up who are indecisive, and that indecisiveness can actually be an opportunity to introduce some consistency. So finally, let's just have a snapshot about the 6 essentially benefits to social commerce. Just almost like a little recap. Enable the marketers to monetize a social media investment. They solve the dilemma of social media return on investment. They result in more data about customer behavior as it relates to the brand. This is extremely fundamental for continual improvement and strategization. Social shopping applications enhance the customer experience. Social shopping makes sharing brand impressions easy, and brands can keep up with the competition and maybe differentiate themselves. So this notion of social media, social commerce is actually very important. All right, the next topic we will cover essentially evaluating social media.